Welcome, everybody. Brother Dan Gooden, your host here on this edition of Cross Union News. And again, I have my guest, Brother Jerry Ross, my good friend, Pastor
Good
Jerry
to see
Ross.
you, brother. Good to be here.
In case you haven't met him yet on the program, he's pastor in Jasonville, Indiana. And we're not going to take a lot of time to go back into your life's history and our time together in Bible college, because we want to hit this thing running, because there's a lot that I want to get you in trouble today. I want to get to some really interesting things here. But we're talking about his book about writing, and of course I'm an author. I've written I don't even know how many books. I have to go back and look and count, but books and pamphlets, I know at least 12 or more. But some of them maybe ain't fit for reading. I don't know, but this is a great little book. I wish I'd have had this book to read about 10 years ago or more. This would have helped me at the time, and boy, reading it now, and I've read almost every page of this. And but you've got a passion to get people to write.
Yes, we need Christians writing. The devil has certainly enlisted his writers, and you go to the average bookstore and look around and think about the average book in there is either promoting some type of a satanic or humanistic philosophy. Where are the Christian writers? We talked about that last program, and this book is designed to help that preacher or evangelist or pastor's wife, or there's a lot of lay people that could contribute in some way in this idea of writing a book or a pamphlet. And this is just a primer, a how-to book that, hey, I've got this idea, where do I go with it? So I sit down and I talk to preachers, and I talk to their wives, and I start getting the same 3 or 4 or 5 reasons why they don't think they can write. And a lot of them, sadly, they've got an idea in the back of their head. They've got a reason, I thought about this, and I just finished this, and boy, it would probably make a good book, but they don't know what to do or where to go with it. So this book gets them jump-started. First of all, I've got to knock down all of their reasons why.
So everybody has them. Why I can't be an author. Why I could never write. So you give some in the book. Give us some of those.
So, and I'll give you I'm going to save the number one that I hear for last, but I hear this, I'm just too busy to write. And I get that. Me and you are busy too, but writing's a discipline.
Didn't you, I believe you said in the book, you wrote most of your books while everyone's sleeping.
Well, that's exactly right. If you're going to be a writer, then you have to schedule time. You have to, a lot of times, find the time where, everybody else is unconscious and asleep. I wrote The Teenage Years of Jesus Christ almost exclusively between 11 o'clock at night and 3 in the morning. And that's
my God's Final Jubilee book, which is a bestseller and kind of got me known, 2014, 15. I began writing in February at my kitchen table, and most of it was after midnight.
Yes.
With some music playing, and I'll go ahead and tell people, I think I've shared it publicly before, the Lord of the Rings soundtrack, the Narnia soundtrack, stuff like that,
right,
moves me. And I'll have, a lot of times I'll have that playing, and I'll write while I'm listening to that. I've got to be alone. I can't write with a bunch of people around.
Right.
And we say write. We're talking about pecking on a keyboard.
Yeah. Everybody's got to figure out who you are.
My 7 Clocks a Ticking book, I've got an office now. We built an office. Since that book come out, that book paid for my office in the back. And so I have a little hole back there that I can shut the door, and I'm by myself. Brother, I don't know about you, but my 7 Clocks a Ticking book that just come out a few months ago, I've wept back there writing. I mean, I get emotional just thinking about it. I've sat there. My wife came in one time, and I just broke down. I'm almost crying now just thinking about it.
Wow.
Just the topic that I was writing about, and I've shared with some of my followers about it, it was tearing me apart because I didn't want to hurt anybody.
Yes.
But it was the King James issue, some stuff that I wrote about that. I was really passionate about it. And it was like I was in a battle with Satan in my office. And you know what I'm talking about. You've sat in your office, and it's hard to explain to someone who's never written anything, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're in there, and you're trying to put something on that page, trying to get it to come out right, and you get this passion in you.
Yes.
Sometimes I know I spent several weeks on that one chapter, and it was unbelievable.
And I think some people have the misconception that you just walk into your office, shut the door, and you sit there and you go into a trance, and then this lightning bolt of inspiration comes, and there are times where it just flows.
There is.
I mean, that is really neat. But those are the exception, not the rule. Writing is like anything else. It's just work. And sometimes I can write a whole chapter and I mean, it just flowed. And sometimes I'll write the same paragraph over 7, 8 times, and I'm still not happy with it. And I just, well, that backspace button on my computer is about worn out because no, that's not what I wanted to say. But everybody's got their reasons why they don't. But I reminded you, I think, before the program started, of a quote that someone gave me. And one man finally looked at me and said, well, you can spend your life making excuses, or you can spend your life making a difference.
All right, you heard it out there, preacher. Every preacher out there that's watching this program, every Bible teacher out there, he just said it. You need to write. And not having the time's not an excuse.
No. And in the book, we cover the reasons why Christians aren't writing. We give you reasons why we must write. But the number one thing I hear is, who would read what I write? I'm a nobody.
Now, you had a couple others. Not enough time.
Yes. Not enough time, and then
which is an excuse.
Which is an excuse because, you know what? Look what we do find the time to do. I'm weak in my grammar skills, you don't understand. I'm not that guy. Well, that's why we have proofreaders. And usually you can hand it to your wife, and she's that person, or you can find that lady in your church.
So grammatical problems is not an excuse.
I have no idea what to write. We're going to talk about that. How do you know what to write?
Yeah.
So we'll cover that and give you good information on that. I can't afford to publish what I write. We had that little discussion off air that, folks, that's no longer an excuse, okay? You don't have to order 5,000 copies to self-publish a book anymore. The technology's completely changed.
And we started with our own printers in our living rooms, you and I did. We printed our own stuff for a while.
We did, yeah. And now you make a phone call, print to order. You can Google that, and there's people all over the country that do that and do it reasonably.
My 7 Clocks a Ticking book was completely paid. The first printing was completely paid by the people that follow me. I did a special, I won't get into all the details, but the whole first printing was paid for.
Well, here's the question. Is this something God wants you to do?
Yeah.
And if it's not, don't do it. But if God puts this book inside of you and he won't let you rest,
that's the title of your book.
Yes.
Did God put a book inside you? Think about that, folks. Did God put something in you that you'd like to get out there? What we're trying to say here is you can do it.
You can do
now,
it.
you had your main reason, and I love this story you're about to tell.
Well,
here.
Tell this story because I want to tell this, and I want our audience to hear it because this was one of those light bulb moments. But I had written the Stay in the Castle book. Then I wrote a book called The Teenage Years of Jesus Christ. We self-published 1,000 copies, took it down to a Bible conference where there was a large, it's the Sword of the Lord Publications, large publisher there. I had a table that had Stay in the Castle, Teenage Years of Jesus Christ, 2 books. That's all I had on my table. They were right beside me, and they had like 300, 200, 300 titles. And long story short, one of the people that worked the table bought one of my Teenage Years of Jesus Christ, gave it to the editor. He calls me about a month later, Shelton Smith, and he says, I love this book. I love the subject matter. It's so well written. Teenagers desperately need this book. I want to take it over. I'd like to publish it through Sword of the Lord. I just have one question. And I said, what's your question? He said, who are you? And I love that story because, you know what? He picked up that book and he read it and he saw that it was meeting a need. He didn't know this guy, but he got on the phone and found out who he was and said, I want to publish this for you. And you know what? Before any famous author that you want to throw their name out, at one time, nobody knew who they were.
That's right. There was a time nobody knew who Charles Spurgeon was.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so this whole idea of I'm a nobody, well, look, come on, folks, we're all nobodies.
That's right.
Jesus is everything. But if God put that book inside of you and it could help people, and if we're not careful, we can hide behind false humility. Oh, well, I'm just this. Well, wait a minute. You know what? What happened to I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me? Yeah. And you know what? If God has put something inside of you and you've shared it or taught it or preached it a few times and you've seen some unusual story and miraculous things happen through it, why isn't that in print? Why just influence a few when you can influence people across the country and around the world?
Now, before we get to the next topic here, there's something I want you to hit before we forget it.
Okay.
Because I highlighted it at least twice in this book. And I want to make sure that we don't miss this because we tend to run out of time.
Yes.
And This is important.
Yes.
You talk about you'll never have writer's block if you write from an outline. Talk about the outline.
Yes. The most important piece of advice I could give to a new author, someone that's sitting down and trying to write a book, is to write from an outline. And as you said, when you read that, you're like, I didn't realize, but I do that. And preachers, we preach from an outline. Sunday school teachers, you write your lesson out. You're teaching from an outline. That's the skeleton. That is your GPS navigation system.
You can take that outline. You got your title.
Yes.
Is there a God? Whatever your title is.
Yes.
You got your main statements there. There's your introduction to the book.
Yes.
Then you got your main points. So there's chapter 1, chapter 2. Holy cow! It's simple.
That's exactly right.
Now, preacher, you can do that.
Yes.
There's preachers out there. You've got good prophecy stuff that you've preached at your church. You've got outlines. Why not put that in a pamphlet? Why not put? You say, well, who would read it? Well, offer the pamphlet to your church. Offer it to your families. Preacher friend, call your preacher buddies across town, across the country, and say, hey, I've written this little pamphlet. I'd like to send you one. And you don't know where it's going to go.
That's
But it doesn't
exactly
matter.
right. No. And so, you write from an outline, and that way you stay on track. You know what the next thing is. And, if you think about when you preach and you're presenting the subject matter, the first thing you want to do is create a hunger in the listeners.
Yes.
Create a need, identify a need that's there, pose a question that everybody wants an answer to. So that's your introduction.
That's your introduction.
It's just whetting their appetite and getting them interested in the book.
When you go in a bookstore, you do the same thing I do. Of course, the cover's the first thing that gets your attention.
That's exactly right.
You turn the book over. Usually there's an introduction or something about the book on the back.
That's exactly right.
I don't even know who the guy is. Now, I might look to see. If it's someone I know that I don't like, that's it.
Right.
But if I don't know the guy, it doesn't matter. What's this book about?
Yes.
That's going to either get me to look further or put the book back.
That's exactly right. And there's an entire chapter in here that takes you through step by step of how to start with your skeleton outline and then how to grow that outline into the place where when you start writing, you're going to know the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. And that helps because when we are very busy, so we got to steal that 15 minutes here, that 30 minutes here. I may be waiting for someone to come in and visit me at the office for a counseling session. I've got 45 minutes. I'll turn on my computer. I can knock out 2 or 3 paragraphs till I hear the knock on the door because I don't have to reload every time. I know what's next.
We picked you up at the airport yesterday. We went to a great restaurant here in Oklahoma City. Had a great time. My wife, my wife, Michael Smith, who many of the audience knows from some programs here, he was with us.
Yes.
We had a wonderful meal. You
Yes.
bought.
Yeah, well,
We got to have you back. If you're going to buy, I'm going to bring you back. And we sat there and we had a good discussion. We talked.
Amen.
And then where did we have to? We had to take you to Best Buy
Best
because you
Buy
needed a cord for your
for
laptop.
my laptop.
Because you had more work to do at the hotel last night.
Yes.
And so we went to Best Buy, and thank goodness the lady couldn't help you, but I found you a plug
You
for
did.
that thing.
You did. You were a better salesperson. If they got a commission, that needs to go to you. Because she gave up after looking at 1 or 2 of them. We don't have it. And Brother Goodwin says, as a persistent, well, you haven't looked in that one. Well, why don't we open this one? Well, look
It
at this one.
fit.
Well, what do you know? You did have
And
one.
we found you cool because I knew that this guy, he flew here. You were a little reluctant at first about coming because
Yes.
of the expense and all that, but we twisted your arm, got
Yes.
you here. And I knew that laptop was important to you, and I wanted you to
Well,
have that
you
plug.
get into a motel, and I'm traveling some, and you have, I can get more work done in a motel room than I can in my office at home
Yeah.
because, hey, I'm a pastor.
No
And that
phone
office
calls.
door, phone rings or people stop by, and that's why I'm there. I'm not complaining. Thank God.
And I was thinking of the airplane. You going to be on that?
Yes,
There's nothing to do on the airplane.
Hey, 14 hours to the Philippines a month ago and 14 hours back, and I was talking about the sequels to The Stay in the Castle. One of them was written completely just on
Oh,
an airplane.
Yeah.
Flying there and back because you just got to find those times and you just have to
Okay.
do it.
We're going to talk about why Christians must
Oh,
write.
yes.
Now, before we do that, let me tell the audience how to get the package deal.
You go ahead.
We've got the book about writing, but we've got some books, other books that he has written. We've talked about The Stay in the Castle. I love this little book. I still cry when I read this little book, Stay in the Castle. But we've got 2 books that I think are very timely for the end times that we're living in, and this talks about the mess of genders and immodesty and feminism and the feminist movement and
Yes. Gender confusion
Yeah.
is a good term. Gender
we don't know which
confusion.
bathroom to use anymore. We got men marrying men, women marrying women. He got a book that talks about masculinity for men. Now these are not politically correct. Let's go ahead and say that.
But they're biblically correct.
Biblically correct. He believes that men ought to be men and
Men.
ladies ought to be ladies. And I'll tell you, this book really got my attention.
Yes.
And I wanted your wife to come, and
Yes.
I begged you to bring your wife, and
Yes.
you said she won't
She
come.
will never stand in
She
front of
co-authored
camera.
this book.
She did a great job.
And I want to say again publicly to Miss Cheryl out there, she knows who I am, and we know each other a little bit. And the door is open if you and Jerry want to come back and talk about this book. So,
Yeah.
so go to the website. Rex has it up there for you, prophecyinthenews.com. Or call the 800 number during business hours, and Sister Carol will probably answer that phone, and she will help you order them. So this is a great deal, great package deal for you. You're going to get all 4 books. So, Brother Jerry, let's jump in. We still got some time. This is great. We want to talk about, you got a chapter called Why Christians Not Should, but Must Write.
Must
So tell us
write.
about that.
Must write. Well, the number one reason I put right there on the front page, truth needs a voice.
I like
Truth
that.
needs a voice.
I highlighted that.
Yes. And you think about it, if we quieted every Bible preacher for the next 2 years, every man that stood behind a pulpit and preached the Word of God, if those voices went completely quiet for 2 years, I think our country would be in complete debauchery in that 2-year period.
Yeah.
Well, writing is just another voice. There's the pulpit voice, there's the publishing voice. And what we've done is we've surrendered that arena
To somebody else.
to somebody else. And so truth needs a voice. Writing allows you to influence future generations. We talked about that, and the men that we have read that passed away hundreds of years ago, and yet their book greatly influenced our lives.
Let me take it one step further, if I can interrupt you.
Sure.
You said we've turned it over to other people. Let me go a step further. I think us Christians have turned over the writing of Christian stuff to the well-known Christian people out there, thinking, well, they know so much more. What do I know? And I'm telling you, I got to be honest, folks. I'm not real happy with a lot of the nationwide prophecy preachers out there.
Yes.
I'm not happy with a lot. Have you noticed there's some stuff that we don't talk about a lot here at Prophecy News? There's some topics that we kind of, and you may be wondering, well, are you talking about? Yeah, I'm probably talking about that. There's some topics that we kind of stay away from. Now we are going to talk about them, but we're going to talk about them in a different light, because I got a different viewpoint on some of these things. I think some of you out there need to start writing, because I'm not real happy with some of the quote unquote nationally known prophecy experts out there.
That's a great point.
And so continue, please.
Yes. And allows us to influence future generation. Writing empowers you to influence people you'll never meet. One of the delights of writing is getting the emails, the letters, all the things that come back. And here are people that I never have met, probably won't meet till I get to heaven. One of the neatest things, you can see it on our website, but a little girl on her wedding day, and you talk about one of those choke me up moments. My wife came over and she sets her laptop in my lap. She said, "You got to look at this email we just got." She's in her white dress in her preparation room, getting ready in just a few minutes to walk down the aisle. So she's made up, and nothing more beautiful than a bride. She's got the Stay in the Castle book open, and she's peeking over the top, and she had the photographer
goodness.
take a picture of that. And she sat in front of her computer, getting ready to walk down the aisle, and said, "Brother Jerry Ross, I just wanted you to know I've never met you, never met your wife, but you receive some of the credit for what's happening today in my life." And brother, I'm reading this, and I put that picture on our website. I put the little note she wrote on the website because I wanted to. But do you understand, folks, that you could have something right now that could have that kind of influence in somebody's life, and you've told a story, and it's tugged at hearts. You have an illustration, you have a book idea, something that helped you that you could pass on. And buddy, when I got that, it was like I told my wife, "That's why we do this. I'll never meet that little girl, but look what happened in her
And
life."
of course he's talking about this. Now we talked about this in the prior program, but
Yes.
this is about being pure and saving, the young lady saving herself for one man, and let's go ahead and say it, one man saving himself for one lady.
That's
It works
exactly
both
right.
ways.
That's exactly
That's
right.
what this little book's about, and that's why it's so precious.
And that,
Wow.
if she was the only one,
It was
wouldn't
fun.
have been worth it
Yeah.
if it was just one, And then we talk about also writing for many Christians becomes a relaxing therapy. And I don't know how it is with you, but like you said, it's been a very emotional thing. And, we have so many things that where we put out, and we're with people. And writing just is kind of that secluded, quiet, us and God time. Whether you're journaling, whether you're writing your family history, whether you're writing a pamphlet or a booklet or a story, short story, nonfiction books, there's a big market out there for nonfiction books. And so you have to figure it out for you, but we have that reason. Then writing may provide you with a second source of income. And ministry people live sacrificially. A lot of folks are bivocational in ministry, or they aren't, but they're struggling. And I'm not going to say that this works out this way for everybody, but hey, for some of us, if we didn't have that little bit extra coming in our writing, that's the difference between, surviving and maybe being able to do something extra for the grandkids or the wife, or give a little extra to missions or whatever you want to do with it.
And it's kind of the workman is worthy of his hire.
Sure.
When you labor,
Sure.
There should be something that is
Yes.
given in response to that.
Absolutely.
I want you to talk now about what was it, chapter 6.
Trying to figure out, what do I write?
Right.
Preacher, how do I feel like God wants me to write something. How did you decide what to write? And one of the things I say on that, the main thing to hear is this: write to a need. And, if you're looking for resources and you can't find it, like when I first started as a youth pastor, I started looking for good Bible-based teen curriculum to teach in our teen.
Good luck with that, huh?
Right. So you know what I ended up doing? I had to end up producing my own. Well, then I said, if I'm looking for what other people are, but I want to get to the masculinity and femininity. Where'd the idea come from those? Well, we went to youth camps and different
that's these two books
conferences.
here.
Yes. Around the country, and I talked to youth pastors, talk to people, listen to what they're saying. Because a lot of people are good problem identifiers, but they're not good problem solvers. So you'll hear them complain or speak about the challenges. And the one thing we kept hearing over a 2 or 3 year period at every camp and conference, everybody dealing with young people, was this: our young men are increasingly effeminate, our young ladies are increasingly masculine, and they all were seeing it and nobody was addressing it. So I came home and told my wife, we have done studies, we've taught on this. We need to really get into this and give them a resource that will help them to be able to go to their young people and teach what biblical femininity is and what biblical masculinity is. And that was
And that's what these two books are.
that was the result of those two books.
Now, speaking of that, you got here in chapter 2, and of course there's 21 tenets in each book.
Yes.
These are awesome. Every young lady could benefit from this. I would encourage you, get this package deal. Your children, your grandchildren need to hear. You preachers ought to be promoting some of this stuff. We're losing our country.
Yes.
Our churches you walk in the average church, you can't tell if you're in a nightclub or where you're at anymore.
Yes.
But you've got something interesting here from Genesis, and I love taking people back to Genesis.
Amen.
You said the first man and woman were not created at the same time or for the same purpose. Can you share some of that?
One of the things that I honestly learned from your book on the Bible studies, what is the 7
Laws of Bible Study.
Genesis is huge because it introduces original intent. The law first mentioned. That's why Genesis is so foundational to understanding all the rest of the Bible. And so why was I created? Everybody's trying to figure out, why am I here? Why am I here? Well, go back to Genesis and figure it out. But men was created for a different intent than women is. Now, if I tried to teach this on a university campus, they'd stone you nowadays, because heaven forbid, we're all the same, we're all equal. But that is not what the Bible teaches. God created the world, created a garden, then created Adam out of the dust of the earth, and he assigned him duties. He gave him a purpose of life. And then he looked at that and said, it's not good that he's alone. He needs someone to help him in completing my will for his life. And a woman was created differently. She wasn't created out of the dust of the earth. She was created off of the rib of Adam. And so she came out of man. And a lot of the frustration points and confusion is that we don't go back to Genesis and look at this original intent. Women are trying to fulfill masculine intent, and even the ones that are succeeding, and we look from the outside and they seem so successful because this is the politically correct now stereotype for women. Sit down and talk to them. They're not happy.
No.
We're not going to be happy until there's something that I just watched on the news yesterday, and it was not on a religious station. It was on mainstream. But there was a lady being interviewed, and they just had this survey out, and Wall Street Journal's it's a New York Times is attacking it. They said the happiest women in America today are religiously conservative women who have an emphasis on the home and child rearing. And of course, and this is not a religious study, this was a secular study that came out with this, and it's blowing the airwaves up. Well, what happened? Some lady said, I think I'll go back to the Bible and figure out original intent and figure out why God made me, and that's where they find their greatest happiness. And so that's what this book addresses, is just trying to get women back to the Bible and let the Bible define what you are, not the afternoon talk show host or these crazy women that sit around the table in the morning and we listen to. And by the way, check their personal lives out before you follow their advice. You might want to figure out who those women are.
You know, I think every time I preach somewhere, of course, my wife travels everywhere with me, and I tell people, and I'm not just joking. I tell them there'd be no God's Final Jubilee ministry without Lucretia, my wife. There would be no books. There would be no. I would not be here.
This is what I say, and you just said it. But my statement is this: if you dust for fingerprints, anything I've ever done that succeeded, somewhere on them you will find my wife's finger. You know why? She's fulfilling God's original intent. Now, we've decided, the devil's decided to do a complete role reversal now. And, sir, you are not designed to be a homemaker and to raise children. That is not God's original intent for your life. I know that's not popular, but that is the truth. You've got men in the home that honestly down deep are miserable and resentful, and a lot of times that will lead to the destruction of the marriage. And yet they're told by society that if you're not supportive of your wife in this, well, God didn't see a woman reach inside of her, take a rib and create you to be a helpmeet. And as long as we want to battle against that, and why wouldn't the devil battle against that? He's going to try to destroy anything and everything that the Lord has created.
Well, Brother Jerry, we've soaked the clock down to nothing. We're out of time.
We had a good time, though, didn't we?
I'm glad you came. The old saying, behind every great man is a woman. I believe that's true.
Yes. And a surprised mother-in-law.
Yeah. Yeah. You're watching the Prophecy News. Glad that you all could be with us. I hope that you're doing well. Get on the website, order the books, prophecynews.com, call the 800 number. But until next time, keep looking up.